we're headed towards the final 5 games for the Chicago Bulls, which start tonight when the Bulls take on the Orlando Magic. We'll look at the final 5 games of the season and preview today's game against Orlando Magic before diving into the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Terry Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So the last 5 games of the season, the Bulls sit here, the last 5 games of the season, already locked in a play-in spot. And so we know we are going to be getting at least one postseason game, right? I'd still count the play-in as a postseason game. We're going to get at least one of those. And that's more than likely coming against against the Atlanta Hawks, right? So the Bulls over the course of the season it's been very much up and down, right? It's been a team that has had tons of questions, at times looked really good, at times looked extremely bad against bad teams. And overall, I know I talked about on yesterday's episode, the thing that I want more, the front office to focus on more than anything is bringing clarity to this roster, building a roster that the roster makes sense to the play style that it clearly, the roster's telling you that they want to play. And something that does fall to Billy Donovan as well. And I think a lot of this is looking at Billy Donovan in the front office. The players the players don't have control over who's here and not, right? And I would say this, the players did what they needed to do this offseason as far as working on the game. You look at the way that Ayo and Kobe have played. DeMar DeRozan has adapted probably about as well as he can to playing a more up-tempo style for a team that wants to shoot more threes but can't really. He's even taking more threes than what he took last season. He's adapted pretty well. Vooch is on the slide, right? I don't think anybody at all at this point has can ignore the fact that Nikola Vucevic is on a decline. It just, how much, can you stave that off? Can you find your next big kind of up in the draft? Even Dalen Terry's shown kind of more flashes than what he's shown. And kind of, you start seeing, hey, this is how Dalen Terry could. Still got he's still very raw player, right? Julian Phillips in his first year showing some things for the Chicago Bulls. And so Obi, another player that showed some flashes, but I don't think the role has been consistent enough for him to kind of stay. He got to work on some things. So I think really when it comes down to everything that we're looking at comes down to, of course, we want the players to take steps. We want them to work. I'm not saying that they can just come in the exact same players, especially the younger ones, but it really is coming down to the coaching staff and the front office. And while I've talked a lot about the front office and their lack of decisions, it's kind of where they've fallen short at a lot of times for the Chicago Bulls. And best believe they've fallen pretty short at times for even their most modern or modest, I should say, goals that they've set for this team. Keeping pushing the goal back. Some championship was the initial thing. Then it's being, then it's continuity. Then it's being competitive. So when it comes down to that, the front office has their own shortcomings, and hopefully this is an offseason where they really look at and try to do some things to add some clarity. You're going to be able to fix everything in one offseason? No, right? Even in my frustration with this Bulls team, you guys know I try to always still be realistic and optimistic about where this team is, but in reality, they got some things that they need to work on. But a big flag, and again, shout out to the Winton segment. He throw some fun to my brother, one of the first subscribers here. But Billy Donovan, and Winton is one of the people who, anytime we talk about something, he usually will find a way to bring up Billy Donovan, and I get it, the frustration's there, but there are some legitimate questions on exactly how much can Billy Donovan really get? Is he the guy to really develop a roster? And he has players, of course, like Shea and things like that have played under him that have really taken steps under him. Lou Dort is another one that you can look at and say that Billy did something with. But I think more so than the development aspect, it's the play style, right? Will Billy really allow the young players to play away in a style consistently, or will he kind of always devolve back into using the veterans that don't necessarily fit that play style as something to look at there? And I'd say this. I'm of two minds, and again, I try to be realistic, and I know I can already predict what Winton's gonna type. That's my dude. But when you look at it, I think it comes down to, in a lot of ways, the players just grabbing the bull by the horns in a lot of ways, because we saw us play faster with Javonte out there, right? When Javonte was playing, rocking and rolling, getting kind of really helping igniting the Bulls offense, we didn't. Billy Donovan to say, hey, stop, let's give the ball to DeMar so we can slow it down. He kind of let it go, right? So I think it's a mixture of the two, and Billy Donovan's one of those things that we know he's going to be here, right? We know the front office is locked into Billy Donovan. He has a contract extension already, even though we don't know how many years or the money that's on it. That's That's still one of the craziest things in basketball right now is that when we look at this and say things to add clarity, we can't pass up on the coaching staff as well. And while I've said things like I would really love to see Billy Donovan kind of get some new assistants in there that kind of have that situational awareness that he lacks. And I think that may be the only thing that we could see that could really, increase that. But Billy Donovan is still something that I look at and like he can do well enough. And I'm not of like some people's mindset where I say, well, we can't do anything possible while Billy Donovan's. No, we can play good under Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan's a good enough coach to get us to a certain level, right? And that the talent, it has to fit together extremely well. Hell, we saw we were the number one team in the East for a little bit when that team first came together, and he really let that roster kind of dictate the play style. But it's just ultimately it is going to be something that I think the Bulls are going to have to look at, whether they do it now or whether they do it later. Is Billy Donovan the guy to really get the most out of this emerging young core? If you even keep this emerging young core, do you try to go older yet again, which is kind of the concern a lot of Bulls fans have when it comes down to it. So that's not something I think is going to gain a whole lot of clarity over these final 5 games, but it is something that I kind of think about and go back and forth on a lot is like, how much is Billy Donovan going to limit the overall ceiling of this team regardless of talent? And I want to throw that to you guys. I just want to hear out from you guys. It's not the most in-depth thing, but I want to hear from you guys. When you look at Billy Donovan and you look at the things that the Bulls could do with the roster, how much do you think Billy Donovan really limits that ceiling, no matter what the talent is, no matter how it fits together? Let me know what you guys think on that. Try not to get into it. Interesting discourse and conversation to have there. But the Bulls have 5 games left this season. They have 2 more against the New York Knicks, which we faced on Tuesday, and then the last game of the season next Sunday against the New York Knicks. We have faced the Orlando Magic today at 6 p.m., I think, Eastern time. And then we also face the Detroit Pistons and the Washington Wizards one more time each as well over these final 5 games. So the first one up is tonight against the Orlando Magic, and this is an opponent that we've seen a whole hell of a lot on. We're pretty familiar with the Orlando Magic as a team and what they can be. And the thing with the Orlando Magic are that makes them so dangerous and such a tough matchup for the Bulls historically is they're just a team that doesn't go away, right? And those are the type of teams that really give the Bulls a lot of fits, is teams that just don't go away. And the Orlando Magic, especially when you have players like Franz Wagner who can do that, Paolo Banchero who can definitely present a matchup problem, the Orlando Magic aren't a good offensive team, right? When you look at it, they're bottom 5, I think, offensive teams in the NBA. I know they're definitely bottom 10. The Bulls are down there as well, so you can take that for what you will with it. But we average more points per game than them. But they come in averaging 110 points per game. But they're also a team that has gotten hot from 3, at least against the Chicago Bulls. Their 3-point shooting on the season is pretty low as well. I think the bottom 10 or 12 in the league there as well. But they're a team that always matchups well, and that's where matchups plays a big part in that. And that's how you're going to have the Bulls are going to have to play with that same intensity that they played with against in their last game. And so that's what it comes down to. If the Bulls can match that intensity level again that they did in that first game against the Knicks, that's going to be the important part of it. And that comes down to coaching, that comes down to execution, comes down to a lot of that. And the Bulls are a team that we know and we've seen a whole hell of a lot that you just never know how they're going to perform night in and night out. It can go so wildly different with the Bulls depending on the opponent, depending on the night, depending on who gives effort, depending on who gets hot. The Orlando Magic are also a bottom 10 defensive team in the NBA. So that's also something that you're looking at in that. So it's a lot to be said right now for how the Bulls can perform in this game. And, you got to hope that the Bulls come in here and just they play really well, man. And it's really not even the tangible things or the statistical things anymore. It is those intangible things with the Bulls. What's the energy level that they play with? Do they match that level from the other team? Do they not back down, right? Do they not go on the long dry spells that we've known that they've gone on many of times in some of these games? Those are the things you're really looking for from the Chicago Bulls in this game to kind of avoid that. And I said they're a bottom 10 defensive team. They're actually not. I don't know what I was looking at. They're top 4 team defensively in the NBA. So you got to be prepared for that one as well. So, that's what it comes down to with the Bulls. Rebounding, especially against a team like the Orlando Magic, you need to rebound the ball well. How do you rebound? What's the pace that you play with? Can you be disruptive on the defensive side of the ball to disrupt their offense and get it to the point to where you're getting out in transition, you're getting turnovers, things like that? That's what you're looking for from the Bulls today against this Orlando Magic team. We've seen the Bulls do it before. The biggest question is, will they? And they've already created some more separation, which is the good thing between the Atlanta Hawks. But like I said, ultimately the 9th to 10th seed, I really don't care when it comes down to that. The Bulls right now are back having a 1.5 game lead over the Atlanta Hawks for that 9th seed, for whatever that's worth. Kobe White and Alex Caruso are both listed as questionable as well for this game. So we'll see. Billy Donovan's already said they're not going to worry about seeding. They'll prioritize health. So we'll see, if those players are ready to go and how confident they play in it. But let's hope the Bulls are ready, rocking and rolling, and we can get a dub tonight against the Orlando Magic. But with that said, it is Sunday, so still is mainly built around your voicemails. This first voicemail, this one's from Brian.
Hey, what's up, Hayes? How you doing? I was just listening to your other show, man, about what the Bulls do next season, probably running back and what the fans want. I'm a die-hard Bulls fan, but I sure in hell don't want to see no rebuild. I'd rather them retool. I would try to push Zach, because the team plays good enough where they can get rid of Zach and get some players in for him, man. And we don't really need no superstars. You got a lot of teams that got superstars like the Golden State Warriors and the LA, and they just not as good as the Bulls. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these superstars we don't necessarily need. We just need good. We got offense. We got offense. We need good defensive players, maybe a couple more shooters, but we need some tough guys, like tough-minded. They don't have to be tough guys like starting trouble. We need some tough-minded players with a high IQ for basketball, like that just know how to win and, do the little things to help the team win. We don't necessarily need so many superstars, and that's what a lot of Bulls fans get it. They want to see LeBron, Kevin Durant, all them on one team. I don't want to see that shit. I want to compete against these players with a good team. Just have a good team basketball, because they're good teams, but they just as bad as the Bulls. You know what I'm saying? So we don't necessarily need superstars. We just need great players, and I think pushing Zach and maybe Vooch. I would keep DeRozan. I would keep Patrick Williams. I would keep Andre Drummond. Zach LaVine is not that type of go-get-it player. He's a good scorer, but we can score without him. We've proven that. I would bring the young guys in, the team. I would bring those players in, develop them real good. Because rebuilding, we're not playing our young guys now. So drafting them and rebuilding, shit, what the hell we going to get out of that? I don't want to see no rebuilding team. I don't want to see it. What's your thoughts on that, man? I don't want to see that shit. I'm done with that. We've seen enough of that. I'd rather them retool. That's it.
I agree with you. Retool, not rebuild. Now, I do disagree with you on what you said as far as you don't need stars. You need stars if you want to win a title. Now, you don't need stars necessarily to be a damn good team, but you use the Golden State Warriors and the Lakers, and I don't think those are the best examples because they have aging stars, but even then, they still have a better record than the Chicago Bulls in a tougher conference. So you still do need stars. And like to your point, I don't think you don't need stars to compete, and we've seen that happen before, right? But if you truly want to, I think most Bulls fans are looking at, we want to win another title, and typically you do need at least a couple of stars or a transcendent superstar to get there. And also, kind of how you talked, it seemed like you kind of conflated having a super team with having a star on your team, and I think those are very different things as well. Super teams, yeah, the stars pairing up and things, unless it happens organically, like you draft those stars, that's one thing, right? But the non-organic super teams that form, I think we're kind of moving away from that in a lot of ways as well. You say that, but then like the Bucks traded for Dame Lillard, and then the Phoenix Suns came together. But then I think when you look at where those teams are, kind of points to it as well. Building organically is a thing, but usually you do need a star to truly be a team that can win a title. Now there have been some teams over the years that have won titles without having that, but generally you do need that. You need that transcendent star to really get you to the place of being able to be a championship contender. I think that's where some people do, but you don't necessarily need to go rebuild to get it. That's the thing that I definitely agree with you on. The tanking and the blowing it all up just so you can get 5 top 3 picks in 5 years or whatever. That I don't necessarily agree with because that doesn't always work. But if your team is just bad and you end up going into the lottery, then drafting well, finding that person that fits your team and that you hope that can hit and grow at an exponential rate. That's really what the Bulls are missing. Let's hope that we get it at some point in time. But great voicemail from you there, Brian. I appreciate you, brother. All right, let's get into this next one. This one's from Reginald.
Hey, this is Reginald from Columbus, Georgia. Just like to say, I think you should get Caruso an extension. I know that's like what some people might consider that to be something like running it back, but you need guys like Caruso. He's not going to give you a ton of points offensively. He's not, 6'9" is going to go crazy, give you like a double-double or something like that. But he's one of those guys who does all the fundamental plays. He always works hard. He always puts himself out there almost to a point where you're just like, man, you got to stop doing that or you're going to hurt yourself, and we need you for the postseason. But guys like him, you just need on your team. He's like a Bruce Brown or, one of those guys where you just look at it like, yeah, whenever he's on the floor, he makes a difference. So signing him to like a 3-year extension, 15, 18 mil per, would be a good deal to me. Also, I like the idea of giving Javonte Green, a 2-3 year deal in the off season. We didn't think he'd be coming back before he got hurt last year, because we all thought he was going to get a bag, and rightfully so. He does a lot of things right. Like I said, he's the same in that way to Caruso, where he's just a great fundamental, high effort player, and signed him to like a 2-year deal worth like $4 or $5 million per. I wouldn't be mad about that. But what's your opinion?
Giving Caruso a contract, I'm not against it. I think it comes down to the number, though, right? And it comes down to what Caruso also wants. Is Caruso fine being the Chicago Bulls? That veteran presence that maybe he's already won a title, and so maybe he's not tripping as much off of it. But if it does become, and as we've seen players get older, it does become more about titles, and that's their right. And with the way that Alex Caruso is able to perform, being a player that can really contribute and play on any type of team, I can see a world in which maybe he does want to go to a team and help them compete for a title. And a team would be willing to give him some money to do that. So I'm not against extending Alex Caruso. I'm not one of those Bulls fans that you kind of see that says things like, we're wasting Alex Caruso. We need to trade him because we're waiting. Nah, if he wants to be here, be here. And he's one of those veterans that does help set a tone, does help set an identity, does help set the expectations for the young players that you're going to see come and develop on this team that are that need to learn that from people. So I think that's ultimately what you need to look at as well. And I'm not against giving Alex Caruso extension at all. I would say this, giving Alex Caruso an extension that's between 12 and maybe even 15 to $18 million, that's probably what he's going to be able to get. And I think people are going to hear that and say, well, that's a lot of money. That's basically the mid-level exception now. We're probably about 4 years away from the mid-level exception being $20 million. And that's just the way that it seems like the NBA is going. So I'm not against paying Alex Caruso that. It depends on kind of what else you do, where you move off some of your other contracts to kind of create that space. But I'm never against giving Alex Caruso an extension. He's the type of guy that you love to have on your team because he performs. He also look at how he did transform himself as a three-point shooter this year, but also the expectation, the way that he sacrifices. I love to have Alex Caruso on this team long-term, so I'm not against an extension at all. But guys, let me know what you think on that one down below. All right, let's get into the last one. This one's from Soul, I believe is how he said it, from Toledo. Let's go ahead and play that now.
What's up, Hayes? This your boy Soul from Toledo, Ohio, whatever the case may be. Chicago Bulls fan, see red if you can. You feel me? Born and raised Chicago. But anyways, I had left a message on YouTube this morning, which is the 4th. And this one's for you, Hayes. Okay, I probably explained it wrong when I put it on there, but what I was saying was, you were saying like what the Bulls need or whatever the case may be. And I was saying pretty much that knowing AK and them, even though AK has not drafted a lot of 6'5" guards, but if you notice, out of the 19 players that's all available and been through, well, 18 now because they got rid of Taylor, but all them players, you notice 10 of them is all 6'5", 6'6", guard-like. And I was trying to say, like, I know you're 100% right. And what he mostly drives in the past couple of years has all been like 6'7", 6'8". But like you said, like the main thing I feel that we need is a rim protector. Like Sunoco, hopefully he get a more chance to play next year because it look like Bubblegum Billy ain't finna do it with him. You know what I'm saying? That's sad. But that's only like the real rim protector we got. Vucevic is not a real rim protector. And don't get me wrong, Drummond does a little bit, but that's not really what he does. His specialty is rebounds. You know what I'm saying? So I was just saying, like, hey, knowing the way the Chicago Bulls and the way things be going, man, he'll mess around and draft another guard. Because if you notice throughout history of the Bulls, we always been guard heavy with our team. That's all I was saying. But look, you're 100% right. And I feel you because I'm with you. We need a rim protector bad. Like you said, the three-point shooting, we got some players. if they would play it, if Billy would will play him more, it would be better. That's all I was saying, Hayes. I probably explained it round on the YouTube because I'm not much of a texter type person anyways. I'm a better talker anyways. So, hey, man, much love to you, Hayes. Much love to all you guys. You feel me? Man, Chicago Bulls, T-Red. Peace.
Oh no, bro, for sure. I get definitely your concern. I think I'm not of the mindset where I say, like, a lot of people look at things and be like, oh, we already know what AK is going to do. He's going to draft a guard because that's all AK. I wasn't saying that that's what you were saying, but I'm not a person against that. I think I go into things with optimism when they make sense, right? And yeah, are there some guards in here that I could see AK taking? But yeah, we're kind of set at guard, right? If anything, we need to get rid of some when you look at it. Kobe, Ayo, Caruso. You still, as of right now, have Zach LaVine on the roster. You still got Dalen, who can play some guard minutes for you as well. OB's a wing, right? You can play the shooting guard or the three. So I think we're kind of set at the guard position. So I hope that the Bulls don't. Now, could they? Absolutely. But I also look at the need that the Bulls have. We do need bigs, and there are bigs in this draft that absolutely can help. So let's hope that the front office, just to be frank, doesn't fuck it up, right? And I understand your concern. And one could say, hey, well, Hayes, they passed up on Walker Kessler when he theoretically brought a lot of what, well, not theoretically, he would have brought a lot what we needed off that bench, and they got Dalen Terry. And you're absolutely right. But I think now, like, with so many years of going, that pseudo 3-4-ish type player that they've drafted a lot of, that it's time to get that. And you see now the decline of Vooch. They signed Adama Sanogo right after the draft as well, so they did address kind of maybe a future big in that way. But there are some really good bigs between Khalil Ware, Klingon, a lot of Kyle Filipowski, another guy that I've talked a lot about on this show. There's some really good bigs in this that bring a lot of what the Bulls need. Not maybe everything that the Bulls need, but there are some that bring a lot of what the Bulls need and can use, especially while you're having Vooch go into decline. So I'm more so hopeful that the Bulls just do something that makes sense. And maybe that's where I'm going wrong at. Maybe I shouldn't expect them to do something that makes sense, and that would be a fair criticism on what this front office has showed us over the last handful of years. But guys, thank you so much for the voicemails. Make sure you're following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end everything on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.